That's your office.
That's my office, yes.
What's that? No, but
To remember, there's a few gatherings.
Yeah, I've one at home as well. That's not good
But
to
I
hear.
wonder, we're just saying about the 19.
And some measurements started from Cunningham Road and some started from Dublin Castle and it might be the different measurement. Would that be an yeah, well, sure, nearly the same. We can swap it. No, okay.
Listen, it's as close as you come to.
Well, it was a...
Now, will we stay in the machine? As soon as it feeds everybody.
I was just taking it.
Betty, hi.
Oh, Frank, how are you? Sweet to meet you. Yes, yes.
That's great. Okay, I'm going to shout for it a little bit just to introduce
Yes, and I think we stay in the shade because the sun is a bit hot, Frank, because that's all right.
No, that's fine.
Yeah,
I want
okay.
to go down there or up there first?
Yeah, up there first.
Okay.
10 minutes here and then up there. Yeah, and then down to the Chinese.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
It would have been about looking over
No, we do that. No, I said we're going to go up there and back. Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah. Right.
Do you want to, how long will you be here? How long will the thing take? Will it be an hour?
Oh, it might, so I'm doing everything very brief.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm
yeah.
keeping everything
Yeah,
as brief
perfect.
as possible.
Okay, that's great.
Because there's a lot in it, and the only way is condense it and condense you.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, okay.
Okay, that's great. Hello, everybody. I'm going to introduce Betty Carey, who is going to teach us a lot of things about the town we don't know already. We're going to be going up on the shadow side first, and then down to Lee's, the
We
Chinese.
cross over.
And we cross over.
And down to the 19 milestone, and then the Chinese.
And then the Chinese.
Yeah, and then back.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
okay.
Well, listen, thank you very much.
Yeah.
The town team appreciates this for Heritage Week. Thank
And
you very much.
now, just your Enfield Town Centre Committee.
Yes.
Yes, and we are there, so I go with them now.
Okay.
Okay,
We'll
great.
have to shout.
Yeah, thanks, Frank.
Thank you very much.
Now, so I'm Betty Carey, for anyone that doesn't know me. I'm a member of Dair Rioga History Group. We do, we did before COVID, and we do functions and a few publications. And our best known publication is All in Good Faith. So anything we don't hit here today is all in good faith. And there are book copies in the library, so you don't actually have to buy it. Just borrow the copy from the library and read all about it. Now, the first thing about Enfield is a very young establishment. It's and to put it, the very first mention of Enfield is in in 1792 map. And Enfield was never mentioned in any of the census returns or anything, because Enfield never existed. It was Possettstown, where we are, and Johnstown, which is up there. And then the census return was Enfield, Possettstown, and Enfield, Johnstown. They didn't even give Enfield a mention in its own right. And the very first mention is in a Noble and Keenan map in 1752. So, and to put that in perspective, Cloncurry is out there, founded by St. Ninian before St. Patrick, 430 AD, and it's in use all the time since. Clonarda's down there, founded by St. Finian, a religious establishment. There was a big college, international acclaim, in about 500 AD, and in use, well, in different uses all the time since then. And then this here whole thing is in the civil parish of Rathcore. And Rathcore is out there. This is the civil parish, and Rathcore was founded when about 450 AD by Saint Ultan, and has been in use all the time as a religious establishment. So that puts Enfield at 1752 a baby in arms. It's not even a teenager. So that's why we're starting from that. Now, Enfield didn't even have a name. It changed over. Enfield was the inn in the field, as you all know, which is now the Chinese. And the inn in the field was an isolated structure down there to serve the Bianconi coaches. And then it was halfway between Maynooth and Kinnegad, and it had to be an overnight stop because the travel in the coaches was so slow. They had to have an overnight stop. So it was an overnight inn in the field, and that's where Enfield came about. Now, it changed names a few times: Enfield, New Inn, and then changed to Enfield. The English Post Office thought it was a mispronunciation, and they changed Enfield to Enfield, and that's where we are now. And now we'll be visiting a stone down there that indicates 19 miles from Dublin, and Enfield was at one time well known as the 19-mile house. The whole area, not just the stone, but where we are now, was called a 19-mile house. Now they're all on maps. Now the Irish name, as they do say on the television, I'm glad you asked me that question. When the Free State was set up in 1922, there was a Place Names Commission set up to translate or to refer to the old Irish names, or to translate English names into Irish. But as Enfield didn't exist, it had no Irish name. It had no name at all. There was no medieval village, there was nothing. So they couldn't refer to an old name, and they had to make up a new name. And that road was called the Boherbui, a yellow road from churning up the clay with the coach wheels. And that even continued on into Kilcock, because this side of Kilcock, near where the chewing gum used to be, or where the sawmill is now, was Boherbui, which is the same word. So the whole road was Boherbui, but the Place Names Commission called Enfield Boherbui. But it never caught on as a name, and it's only now used on the signposts and the post office. But in general, people don't use the name Boherbui, but it was the Place Names Commission manufactured a name to fit Enfield. Now, there's a lot to be gone through, so I'm going very fast, not to delay. Standing is tiring, so I don't want you standing the whole evening, so I'm skipping over everything. There's enough in this, but we'll do nights around the winter where we can do a video presentation and that, and do it more slowly. Now, if you're up the Johnstown Road there, towards Johnstown Bridge or Edenderry, there are a few things that we need to mention that are not, well, they're in Enfield area. the very first thing is the 1916 memorial, and that's up there for those of you that were at the unveiling of it. It was unveiled in 1916, and all the symbols up there mean something. The 7 signatures of the proclamation are 7 stones in the ground. There's something of the poverty. There's the debris in the aftermath of the shelling. There's a big tree to the new nation. There's the 5 or whatever in over the 7 signed the proclamation, and 5 were then the 16 that were executed, and there's 16 trees all around to them, and there's a central cross for the people who died as a result. But the best thing is, at your leisure, go up and look at it, because all this information is on a big notice board up there, and you really have to be there looking at the various symbols and studying what the various symbols are. So the best thing is, go up and have a look at it. And the other thing that's there is a low wall that was the original wall of the Johnstown Estate. You remember that, Jean, sure, it was opposite your house, before they built the bridge over the new motorway, and it's there. But there's so much in it. There's a whole day in itself to that memorial, so go up at your leisure to look at that. Now, beyond that then, up over the bridge, over the motorway and down the other side, and on the right hand side is a stone monument to Scarupa. And Scarupa in Old Irish, Dineen in Old Irish gives scar as a ridge of sand, and uppa or uppera is a place of enchantment or witchcraft. So the people always knew it was a holy site of enchantment, and it was called Scarupa, and it's still called Scarupa. But in the construction of the motorway, the M4 motorway, they knew that this was there, and in further investigation they uncovered the baby burial ground, which everyone knew was there, and they uncovered an old burial ground there for 1,500 years, in continuous use for 1,500. But they were full skeletons, and they uncovered them all, and detailed information is on the website for anyone that wants to look at it. But there were 64 baby burials, which the people all knew about, and it was in unconsecrated ground. So we got permission from the National Roads Authority. We got the little baby skeletons back and buried them in Johnstown, and had a big ceremony one Sunday morning. All the people went up, and we had a big ceremony re-interring them in Johnstown. So, but they were buried there up until the 1940s or 50s, relatively recently. Now then on the old big site there for 1,500 or more years, there was a lot of evidence of a lot of activity, metal work and grain drying and all that sort of thing. But that's all there recorded, but we only concentrated on the baby burials and put up the stone to the baby burials. So if you're ever coming out of Johnstown Estate, it's the stone is directly opposite you. Now, you see, I'm going very quickly now, but if anyone wants to ask anything or wants to correct me and tell me that I'm wrong, that's okay.
I won't contradict.
It's a cool day you don't get up and learn something. So that's why I'm skipping along, because there's a lot to do. Then directly opposite that is to the entrance to the Johnstown Estate Hotel. Well, that's a big estate up there for a long time, and there was a small Brigidine convent in it. Now, a convent that time wasn't like a convent now. It was nuns cared for the poor and the sick in the locality and helped with sewing and dressmaking and that sort of thing. Then in 1641, they were Sir Richard Barnwell, a papist as they called him then, was evicted and the land was given to Trinity College, and probably at that time the Brigidine convent was got rid of. It was later occupied by a Reverend James Rind. Now there's a holy well up there down to the right of the hotel that has a cure for a whole lot of things. So if you want a cure for anything, and the well is still accessible and visible. And then in the 1920s, 1926 I think, the Prendergast bought that big old house. There are I have photographs of everything, but I won't delay anyone looking at them now. We can look at them later if anyone wants to look at them. And it was a wreck, but the Prendergast lived in it. It was a happy home, and we were all in it. We all knew it well, because the Prendergast children were the same ages as my children, so there was lots of contact. But then it changed hands a few times after the Prendergast, and it's the Johnstown Estate Hotel now. Now there is Jimmy Prendergast, the father of the grandfather of the two rugby players, wrote a book about it. So there is, now it's a small book, but if anyone wanted a detailed history, it is to be got. I'd say they have copies up in the hotel, I don't know. Now, that's then back down, of course, here, and the school and that. Now, we're now starting on the main street of Enfield. Now that, of course, was the Sleemore, the big road, which that hotel down there was called after, or the Great Connaught Road, Connaught Street in Kilcock is still part of it, or the Boherbue that they called Enfield after it. But it was then the N4, and it's the 148 now, isn't it? So it had several names. So we're heading a bit west. We're going up as far as the Canal.
That's right.
I think
this is to...
Oh yeah,
go out there in the and it said sold out.
Now, and as I say, anyone that knows more than I do, correct me. Now, at the back, that's Daly's house and that's Daly's farmyard.
Mother, give people a chance to come.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you got to look sharp, Mary, when you're doing it. Long stage, yeah. Now, everyone is here. Our look here, Kevin. At the back of Daly's house is a field known locally as the Raheen, and always called the Raheen, or in the 1938 collection of stories, someone called it Boyne's Field. It's a circular compound. What's this? It's 82 metres by 48 metres. It's a protected structure, but it was never archaeologically investigated or dug, so nobody knows. I think there might be a few bones in it, so whether it was an animal enclosure or a human enclosure, nobody knows. It was never investigated, but it's there. It's a protected structure. It's the Raheen or Boyne's Field, and there is further information on the website if anyone wants to look it up. And that's just in there if any of you hear them talking about the Raheen. Now the canal, the Royal Canal, and of thing that you might need, of course that's a new bridge over the canal and over the railway, and the canal, the tow path is that side, and it came up and changed under the bridge, was it? And it then carries on up that side. I think one of the reasons, there's a lot of boggy, swampy land out there near the old bog road, and they couldn't go through it, and they had to go. Well, that'd be the reason they had to go through that land on this side. Now, as I said, Enfield is new, but the canal was started in 1790, which is only 220 years ago. In the life of everything, it's nothing. And Dublin to Shannon Dublin to Shannon was completed in 1817. That was and now it was difficult to dig because it had to go through bog and swamp, and it posed a lot of problems. And the Grand Canal was doing nearly the same traffic, Dublin to the Shannon also, so there was competition between them. Then there was a lot of damage done to the canal, to this Royal Canal, when they were digging it, and you see they had to build up the sides and spot. A canal has to be level, you can have no slopes on a canal, otherwise the water will all flow into the sea. So there are locks on it to hold back the water, but apart from that it had to be reasonably level, and they had to build it up in spots and drop it in spots. And the vandals used to dig holes in the banks building it up, and then they'd all have to be hired the next day to repair the damage that they had done. And there was a group that ribbon men, and the ribbon men were leading the vandalism, and that's why Ribbontail Bridge at Longwood is called Ribbontail. They damaged it, and there's another section out there that's well built up beyond the viaduct, or the aqueduct it is, out just only 3 or 4 kilometres up there, and it's built up, and they dug into the sides of it several times. And of course, once the water would start to flow out the side, it would bring the whole bank with it. And so with dealing with vandalism and non-profitability and slowness and one thing and another, it was never really profitable, but it was busy. And in 1847 they carried a lot of food and support down in the famine, so it was very busy that, and they brought Indian meal, as we used to call it, Indian mail, down in the boats, and distributed it. And so it was busy, but it was never really profitable. Now, then it closed down more or less altogether, but then in the 1940s, during the emergency, we called it the emergency because we were neutral and there was no war, and so it was called the emergency in Ireland. It opened up again, bringing turf into Dublin. Now Bill remembers this. He remembers the barges going up with the turf, and they could carry an awful lot of turf. They must have got the turf down on Belive or somewhere, did they?
No, further down in Westmeath.
In Westmeath, and the turf were stored in the Phoenix Park.
Right.
There was a big
mound.
Yes.
We used to cycle with my dad with bags to dig the peat house.
Well, it went up the
Right.
canal.
Yeah, it's gone now.
Now
The hill is gone.
And the barges then came down empty, so they didn't get a return journey. But what Bill particularly remembers is the slowness of it. You see, it was just the horses towing it along the canal banks, and they were barely at walking pace. There was a man with a horse and a man on the barge keeping it going. But they used coke on the canal, on the barges, and he remembers the smell of the fresh bacon coming up. You've given an arm and a leg for a good rasher of
Early takeaways.
Yeah. Well, then they went
60
to,
tons of turf.
was it 60 ton of turf into the face, and you got some of them.
No, I just got the that was left, the mold, the turf mold. The turf was all gone.
So it was then closed, and then there was a proposal to close the whole thing down and make a motorway. Fortunately, a number of local people, your father would have been among them, Jean, and saw the potential for a wildlife linear park. No disturbance, let it go, let it be a wildlife linear park. The first section open was from there to Brown's Cottage, Meath County. The surface was bad and Meath County Council repaired the surface, and that was the first section surfaced. Then Leak Slip got involved, and then the Royal Canal Amenity Group got involved, and there was a section here and a section there and a section restored, and now it's the Royal Canal Greenway.
Can I just come in
Yes,
there?
John.
We started work on the linear park
Yeah.
here back in 1982.
Yeah, well it had...
And
yeah.
we were a subcommittee of the Community Council.
Yes, yeah.
And we progressed from that to Enfield Environment Group, Enfield Tidy House.
Yeah.
But it was a wilderness.
It was well...
Nobody wanted to know anything about
the
it.
work had started, I think, in
1982, Betty.
Yeah.
The first night we came down here, there was enthusiasm by the community, and we had about 36 people, and a few more people here, and there was so much briars, thistles and whatnot. The second night we came down to work, it was down to 6 people.
Oh, yes.
And it continued like that for what you see today. But like, we put in massive work.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing I want to say is, we had a stonemason to rebuild the harbour. We had Joe Halton down there. He was a stonemason. Our group were responsible for the returns on the stonemason to the revenue commissioners and whatnot. And we kind of fell behind in PRSI commitments to him. We were paying his needs, but we fell behind on ours. And I was getting letters from the sheriff that the sheriff was going to come out to me.
Take your house.
And I'm talking a good few years back, but in the 80s. But the thing is, at the official opening, or even before it, John Bruton would have been out there. And a phone call to John Bruton, we explained the situation, and we made a phone call and sorted it out. But Joe Halton was the stonemason here, and we had a lot of people on a FOSS scheme here, young people, training them in stonemasonry. And the houses that were down there on the green area, there were houses there that people lived in. We used that stone to rebuild the entrance as you're going in. The canal, like for us, back in the day, I'm talking about the early 80s and that, there was nothing happening. There was no boats on it, there was nothing happening on it. And we as a group, we got involved with the Royal Canal Amenity Group. I would have been secretary of the Royal Canal Amenity Group for a few years. Brian Donoghue was treasurer.
Sorry, John, I'm just going to interrupt you because I know you're on a
hurry.
mission.
That's interesting.
But we'll
well,
come back to that.
At the same time, John, as you were doing that, the towpath that side was being restored. Meath County Council did it to Brown's and then did it up to the Quakers Gates in sections. They didn't do it all in 1 year, and that's the path now. Now the Quakers Gates, there were Quakers, that's a side issue now. There were Quakers in this area. They lived down, we know the field they lived down. We actually own the half of it. But nobody knows what happened to Quakers. Some say there were Scottish people, engineers, that came over to help build the canal. But I think with the papers that were destroyed in the fire in 1922, all information of them. So that's the Quakers Gates down.
We put a gate down there to mimic the Quakers Gate years ago.
Stolen on night one.
Yes, it was, Betty. Yeah, you're right.
So imagine they stole the Iron Gate on night one. And the one now, the railway. This was the Midland Great Western Railway, and it was opened in on the 28th of June, 1847. Now, as a side issue of opening it in 1847, that was the worst years of the famine, and it gave some local employment, building it and maintaining it. So in a way it minimised the worst effect of the famine in this area, even though there was a huge fall in population, but it minimised the worst effect of that. Now, it was a busy station because it was the only station serving the whole area, and up there was Nesbitt Junction serving Edenderry. And I think there's a sign down there, so there's a photograph I think someone put up, change here for Edenderry. You had to change up there, and the Nesbitt Junction change. Of course, it's all gone now. Now there is a line, the line is there in bits to Edenderry, and someone talks of opening it as a greenway, an extension of the greenway. Now, that station there closed for passengers in 1947, and it used to open in the season. In the beet season, farmers locally growing beet drew their beet into there, and it was loaded into the wagons and brought to Chewham Beet Factory, as you all remember. Carlo, Mallow, Thurles and Chewham and the local beet all went from here to Chewham. The other thing that it opened, that it always remained open for, was cattle. The big local farmers went down to the west of Ireland and bought their small cattle, loaded them into wagons and brought them up and landed them there. And the local farmers then walked them from there to their grazing grounds. Well, of course, Chewham closed down, so loading beet there closed down, and cattle then, road transport and cattle lorries and marts, Meath Mart and Edenderry Mart, the buying and the selling was done at the mart, so loading cattle for Dublin also ceased. Oh, the Dublin market closed anyway, we all remember that. It was the marts closed, the Dublin market. Imagine they used to walk the cattle down the North
beside
Circular.
it, yeah?
Yes, they used to walk them down there now. And now, the big outing on that, of course, was, I forget what year I'm in, 1979, when the Pope came. They opened that station for the Sligo train going up, and we all left there at 2 a.m. to go to the park, and got off at Castleknock, was it, and ran. We thought we were going to be late, and we were home at, we left at 4 and we were home at 2, so that was that day. But that reopened then for passengers in 1988. And now what remains of it is, that was the water tank when there were steam trains. You see, it had to be water. Now, far down, Bill will come, that's the water tank. Yeah. Wait, now you're standing with your back to the people.
That's the engine room under it.
Oh, and what was that engine for? To drive the pump?
To pump the water
from
from the canal.
Oh, from the canal.
And you see that blue pipe?
Yeah.
They put that into the train engines.
Yeah. Now, do you want to get in here, Neil?
But you'd want to see it.
Yeah.
You turn this way.
Yeah, interface them, yeah. There's the pipe there that pumped the water from the canal in, and the pump is there. And look at everything that we're doing. There's enough in one scene to do an evening, but we have to cover everything. Then farther up there is that another water tank.
On the left-hand side.
On the left-hand side was enough. And when the steam trains go down, you know they do an exhibition steam train, they fill the water as a part of their steam train thing. Now, the other thing that's left are the station houses there, the two small houses, and Pádraig O'Donoghue's station master's house is there, and then there's a few sidings and stores down at the back.
And the lovely waiting room's gone. That was gorgeous.
Yeah. So that's, what else have I? no, that's the real. As I say, I'm sorry having to skip everything so quickly, but we'll have a lot to get through. And maybe out here in the winter, some evening, we'll do a PowerPoint presentation and show everything slower. Today is just an appetizer. Yeah. Okay. Now, anyone else? Next stop is 19 months.
For the Galway mail train. That'll be in London the next day.
Yeah, he's telling me here. When was that? In my time, you could put the mail train went up at 10 to 12, I think, every night. And if you had a letter on the mail train leaving here, it was in London the next morning. They used to sort the letters on the train going up. So you know that. Did your dad sort letters on the train?
No, he put out the bag for the snatcher to catch it.
For the snatcher to catch it. And that,
the post bag.
And that letter was in London the next morning. And Jim Cummins was the man in the signal box. And Jim Cummins was a very contrary man. And if you hadn't the bag out, the snatcher used to. The train didn't stop. The snatcher grabbed the bag and away with the mail train. But he might stop the whole train then to get it. But that was in London the next morning. It was a better mail service that time. Yeah. Or stop the old barracks. Oh, gee. Oh, yeah.
Many people come together.
Now, this is, we call it now the old barracks, and it is the old barracks, and it was the Royal Irish Constabulary Barracks. As you, well, it's obviously, on the 7th of August 1920, the RIC vacated that barracks, and it was burned to the ground that night. So it was rebuilt. I think there was compensation for everything that was burned. So it was rebuilt that night, and that's what you're looking at. I have photographs of the old barracks, and it's exactly the same, built exactly the same. So it was part of the War of Independence. Yeah.
I've a bed out from that. My grandfather
You have
took
a
it out.
what?
A bed.
Oh,
For
have
the
you?
prisoners, yeah. My grandfather took it out. And my mother kept it.
Was he in the RIC?
No, he was in the guards.
Oh,
O'Neill.
in the guards, and then took it out.
Yeah. Pop, yeah.
Pop,
Yeah.
And
I still have it.
Well, that would have been a new bed put in.
No, it was from the RIC
It
time.
was from the
Yeah.
RIC.
My mother wouldn't get rid of it. She kept it. We used to call it the little bed. The little iron bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And So you'll all have to juggle around a little bit to see the 19 milestone, and that's CM19. Now that's County Meath. CM is County Meath. I used to think it was Celtic miles, but no, and it shows 19 miles to Dublin. Now, as we all know, it's more than 19 miles to Dublin, it's 26 miles to Dublin, but that's 19 Irish plantation measure. And when the British were seizing all the land and to pay off their benefactors and pay off their war debts and pay off everything, they didn't want to make it seem so bad. And if they were taking 800 acres of somebody, they converted it to 500 acres, 8 to 5, or roughly, it was 1.27, but 8 to 5 roughly, and it didn't seem so bad when they were taking 500 acres, and they did the same then with road measure. While they say 19 miles to Dublin, 19 multiplied by 1.27 gives you 26 approximately. Now the measure we believe was taken to Dublin Castle. So it was 19 Irish mile to Dublin Castle, or 26 statute, but they didn't measure in statute. Now, I have a map there which I won't take out now, but I'll show it later on to anyone. Enfield was actually called 19 Mile House. I think I mentioned that up there, and it was called 19 Mile House from that stone. Now, one thing we're not all 100% sure of was that stone moved from a different location, because at the time we are talking about, there was nothing in Enfield. The map that I have there is 1806, and there were 20 little scattered houses around. The only thing that you can really recognise on it is the Chinese, and there was a tiny little house up there where our building was, but it was called 19 Mile House, and the timetables were even given to 19 Mile House, and that's the stone that named Enfield 19 Mile House. Now, just as a little side issue, I was coming by here one day, maybe 20 years ago, and Bob Condon was there. Oh, come over here, come over here. That was a window into, when that was Mrs. Harris's dining room, and a fella inside with, is it a con saw you call the big saw, put the saw in the window and was going down, and went down through the side of the stone. And we rushed in, stop. So only for Bob Condon himself, that stone wouldn't be there. But that's the 19 Mile stone. And now there's a lot of crossover between the 19 Mile stone and the Chinese and the names and that. So we're going up short. The next stop, where did I see?
It is.
The next stop is the Chinese. Yeah. So have I anything else that I didn't mind? Yeah. Oh yeah, from the 1760s, they erected milestones or mileposts every mile off the road. And this may be one of the oldest artefacts, but it was in 1760 they started putting up milestones, and that's one of the first. And to add to confusion, I have a map in there which I might take out showing another when the top was the south of the map, old maps, and now the top is the north, but the first from the top was the south, and it actually shows 20 mile up there and 21 mile out there. So it was, I don't know whether it was different people measured it, or now Lucy was at, is Lucy there? Lucy,
here.
Oh, here.
Yeah.
Lucy was at a talk in Leakslip the other night, and they talked about the mileage being taken from Cunningham Road, was it, Lucy? And they and we always believed all the mileage was taken from Dublin Castle. So the difference may be different starting points. So that's the 19 milestone. Lucy, am I missing? I'm sure I'm missing something.
No, I don't think so.
Lucy does the research now.
Yep.
Come out here and say hello to them. I only do the talking.
It's Anne Heffernan still there. She's the, what do you call the...
Research assistant.
Yeah, yeah. Or when you have to check things, the fact checker. Anne Heffernan is the fact checker.
Is she here?
She was. Oh, yeah.
No.
Good to go. Great.
I think we're away to go again.
Yeah.
Now this is the Chinese. And now, there's a lot of vagueness about the starting of it and so on, but it was set up, the inn in the field Enfield to serve the B and Coney coaches and mail and passengers. And it was a handy stop halfway between Meath and Kinnegad. And that's why it was here, because there was nothing else here. Maria Edgeworth Road stayed here in 1798. That's another story about the rebellion. And she wrote that it stopped at an isolated inn. There was nothing here, only that. Now, of course, it was rebuilt. Now, the inn in the field is first mentioned in the Noble and Keenan map in 1750. So that's 1750, 1850, 1950, 270 years. So that's as long as the stuff. But as we're saying, based on ages and that, 270 years is, but that's the inn in the field. And it's on a B and Coney timetable in 1780, and it was called the 19-mile house. So that's why we're not sure, was that stone moved from there or here, or was this area? Yeah, I know, always the 19-mile area, but it was called the 19-mile house. Now, the letter, there's a letter, Lucy got it from Maria Edgeworth. Was it you or was it? In 1798, in the middle of the rebellion, they were at a wedding in Dublin and they were setting off by horse and carriage, of course. You see, we all think everything was in a motor, but it wasn't. It was in a horse and car, as they used to call it that, and they were alerted to robberies and ambushes on this road, and they stopped here, and so a wheel had broken on their on their horse and carriage, and they got a spare wheel here and proceeded on and had no trouble in the 1798 rebellion, but it was around here. Now, in 1791, it's described as a fine, isolated hotel. You see, there was nothing, only that. A fine, isolated hotel with a frontage of 7 windows. There's still 7 windows on it, but it was rebuilt in 1829, with extensive stabling opposite. Mm-hmm. Now, there's usually more of a story about the stabling than there is about the Chinese now. We'll come to the stabling in a minute. Then road transport got faster, the horses and carriages and pumped wheels. And see, they were always driving on iron wheels across bad roads. And then they started on the turnpike road, so they improved the road transport. Rubber wheels improved and there was no need for a stop over here. They could go Meath to Mullingar, Meath to Kinnegad or Mullingar in the same day, or they go on the canal, or they do something faster than a horse and carriage. So it went down as an overnight stop, but it was ready. The B and Coney coaches and all the coaches carried the mail, and this was always a mail stop. It was a general post office, but then with the canal and the railway, they moved the general post office to Mullingar, and this became a local post office serving. Now, the Enfield postal area is huge, down around Clonardon, Castlejordan and Ballynabracky, and all around there is all the Enfield district. So it was a main post office until the Irish postal system was set up, we think, in 1924. And E.J. Daly, Jean was here.
Jean Langley. Where's Jean
Jean
Langley?
Langley, she was here.
Yeah.
Her grandfather got the contract for running the post office. He had been in communications in World War I and understood communications and got the contract, and he started it up there, and it's Jean and Carey, his 2 granddaughters, that are running the post office over there now. Now, as I explained up there about the Boher, Enfield and Enfield and 19 Mile and on to Boher Bui, officially Enfield is Boherbue, and that's it. If you get a letter stamped over there, it's stamped Boherbue. And the post office and the road signs are the two state organisations using the Irish Boherbue, and that's why it's Boherbue over there. And Jean said there was a ledger that she couldn't put her hand on that had it. Well, did her father get it at Enfield? There was a Boherbue at the time. Now that house changed hands a few times. Bill remembers the people that you probably do, Jean. It changed hands, and then the Darcys bought. Pat Darcy lived there, and Maggie Flynn lived in that section there, and bought by the Darcys, and there it's now the Chinese. Now, as I said, there was nearly more interest in the stabling than there was in the house. Would you remember the stabling over there, Jackie?
Yeah, I remember the sheds.
Yes, you would.
Yeah.
Yes, your father,
Yeah.
your grandfather, I do get mixed up in
No, my
generations.
father had it,
owned it. And we were looking at a map, and it showed a sapper's mark. Now that brings me to another story. And it showed the sapper's mark there, and we thought the sapper's mark should be on the China. Now a sapper's mark. When the Napoleonic Wars were over in the 1800s, England had a big army, but they were afraid to disband the army in case Napoleon got going again. So they kept the army, but they had to keep them busy at something. So they sent them over to Ireland to start the Ordnance Survey maps in 1820, and they were doing that. And then in 1836-37, they decided to do height above sea level, and they sent their engineers over to do height above sea level, and the English engineers were called sappers. It was just a local name for them, and they started taking height above sea level, and it was all levels were taken from low tide on the 8th of April 1937 at Poolbeg Lighthouse. So, can you hear me behind me there? Sorry. At 1837, sorry about that, at Poolbeg Lighthouse. And they put their marks on stones, and it was 3 marks like that with a flat top, and the measurement of the flat top was taken as the height above sea level, and the next mark was taken from this. So they're marked on the maps as benchmark, because that was the benchmark, BN, and we searched all those windowsills there looking for this benchmark and couldn't find it. But the benchmark was actually on the stabling, because the stabling was better quality stone. Those windowsills are poor quality, well, not poor quality, but they're slate and not good for carving, so they couldn't carve the benchmarks into them, and they carved a better benchmark over there, and the benchmark over there was 262.2 feet over sea level, but that stone went in the demolishing of the stables to gain super value. Now, the bound drainage used, now, of course, now I'll come, those marks are height over sea level now, are not taken from those now, they take them from Donegal, Mallinhead, there. And of course it's all electronics now, you just do that with a screen and it tells you your height above sea level. Anyway, you don't have to be going looking for a benchmark on the stone. But the bound drainage, when they drain the black water up there, use those heights above sea level to get their drainage levels right. So that's it. So that's the Chinese, a great asset to the community. We like it. So now,
Commission rate for that plug, Mammy.
Yeah. But so now we'll just go up now and we'll stop at the famine pot for a minute. It's written on that stone. Oh yes, just here. I don't know what's written on that stone. What's written on that stone? Oh, soup, yes. Yeah. Now, that was a famine pot used in this area. I don't know how many gallons it is. Anne Donahue, is Anne Donahue here? Anne has the recipe for the soup to fill that pot. And there's 4 ounces of meat in the recipe for that pot of soup. So that wouldn't be fair. Wasn't it 4 ounces?
And a huge amount of salt.
Yeah.
Turnip.
Yeah.
1 potato, I think.
Yeah.
It was very.
I'd say it was mainly boiled turnip was the soup. Now, you can't get, James Keogh presented that to the Tidy Towns, and you can't get a good look at it. It was better when it was empty, but they used it as a rubbish dump, and everyone was dumping the rubbish in it, so the Tidy Towns had to plant flowers in it.
Well, it's herbs actually. We didn't put
It's herbs, yeah. Yeah. So that's the famine pot. Now the next stop is the water pump that supplies the village of Enfield. Now this is the water pump, and I'll come to that in 1 minute. But somebody asked me up there about a forge. There's a forge marked on a map. But you see, that's part of the development when 19 Mile House or New Inn or Enfield House was there. It needed a lot of staff, and it was all horses and carts, and the stables were opposite. And Bill remembers the stabling with the numbers of the stalls and who could stand at them.
Where I remember was the big bit at the back, and I think it might have been parking for the carriages because they were all big.
Yeah.
There was no sections in those ones.
Yeah.
No, but you remember the Jack Hayden?
Yeah.
And I remember
The blacksmith.
And you see, the inn needed staff to air the beds, as you used to say. Well aired, 4-poster beds, well aired every day. And it needed staff, and it needed ostlers, as they called them, to mind the horses and mind the shoes. And it needed ironworks to repair, because there were iron wheels. So there was a lot of employment associated with the inn in the field. And there were a lot of coaches going through, and it had to be attended every day. Now we're at a water pump. Now, what's in a water pump, you might think? Well, the description of this water pump on the internet, is it, Lucy?
Yeah.
It's a cast iron water pump, circa 1870, with foundry mark, banded shaft, fluted neck, finial and spout with a pumpy handle. The decorative detailing, such as the banding and fluting, provide artistic detail to this functional water pump. Water pumps played an important social and functional role from the mid-19th century onwards, providing a communal water support to the village. So you're looking at that's the thing you look at.
Every word of that is true.
And well, now the people all had water barrels at home that collected water off the roof. But this was the meeting place in the morning, and apparently there's a lot of detail on that and that and that and that. So that's the water pump, the communal. What have they in offices now where they all meet at the water
Station.
Yeah.
The coffee.
No, the water
station or something. Yeah.
Well, that was it off the day, and that's all the detail. You're looking at a work of art, if you only knew it. Yeah.
I remember as a child being sent down to get bucket water.
Yeah.
By the time you get home, half of it has been
So now the next stop is just at Breakfast, and that will be the last stop. Now, Gregory's, and this is the last, and I'll just do now. This was known as Barrington's Hotel. Did you know it was Barrington's Hotel, Jean? And it was very important. Barrington's contributed a lot. Barrington's in a way contributed as much as the Inn in the Field did, because they were the only more modern hotel. And they combined with the train. And the train was the only public transport to all this area. And commercial travellers used to come down on the train and they'd stay in Barrington's, and they'd hire cars and horses to bring them to Trim and Edenderry and all around to sell their wares. So Barrington's was a big, busy business and gave a lot of employment, and everyone knew Barrington's. And that was after 1847 when the train opened. Now, then it was, well, it worked as that, but then of course cars got going and that ruled down having to come on the train and stay overnight. So as an overnight stop, it reduced. Well, then Barrington's was sold to Daniels's, and John Daniels.
John is there.
John, yes, you're here. And John Daniels's people owned this for a while, and then and you sold it to Martin Flattery in 1959. 57 was it? Well, it was, the deal must only have concluded in 59.
Solicitors held it up.
I think actually a sale collapsed in between to a lady, someone on that. So then it was Martin Flattery's, and it was the centre of all activity. If you were doing anywhere or going anywhere, you went to Martin Flattery's at night time. But that was Barrington's Hotel, and I'd say it was one of the most famous hotels in the Midlands.
Oh, and now John Daniels as well.
Yeah, and John Daniels was.
Yeah, uncle or something.
Yes,
Was it
yeah.
your Uncle John? Was it your uncle?
It's an uncle, yeah.
Your uncle?
Yeah. So that now, but then cars changed everything, and road transport changed everything, and it's now. I could go through several. The old road from Dublin actually went across Kappa Hill, and it was a turnpike toll road. But there were too many robberies on it, because going up Kappa Hill, the horses drawing big loads, it was too prone to robberies, and they moved the road down to going by Cloncurry out there. But the old road was the road off where the motorway is now, was more lined with the old road, and that's
Say, Betty, say my father had the first car in Enfield.
Oh, that could be, well, does that when they say car, do they mean motor car? Motor car, yes.
Oh no, I'm going to fight with that.
Step in, there's the circus.
Well, it was between your father and him, because he was in here as well.
So that concludes us for now. And I have a whole lot of maps and things here. If anyone wants to look at anything, we'll look at it. And thanks very much.
Thank you.